Peace and greetings, world. This is 360 Collective. I'm your host for the evening, Brother Isaac Castellaz. I'm wonderfully fortunate to have my good comrade and brother, Timothy Hampton, on with us. Tim, how are you doing tonight, my man?
I am well, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, as always. Thrilled to be alive, breathing this air, and just having a good experience, man. Thrilled to be on.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we will have our esteemed panelist, John Bunchy Career, freedom fighter and veteran member of the Black Panther Party, on shortly. He'll be joining us any minute now, and so we look forward to having his insight along the way as we go through this conversation about the presidential race and the current events of the past few weeks. We want to make sure that we invite you into this conversation with us. So we want to know along the way what you're thinking, what you're feeling. We want to know what your reactions are to our insights, to our opinions, and to the thoughts that we share. We want this to be as interactive as it possibly can be as you're listening to us from wherever you may be. We want to know what's on your mind. We will definitely react to it. If you drop us a thought in the comment section, we will acknowledge it. We will post it. We will show it on our screen, and we will build off of it. So we'll spend about the next 70 minutes or so talking about all things related to the presidential election, specifically through the lenses of race and justice and racial justice. So with that said, Tim, I want to get your thoughts on something that happened just yesterday. So just yesterday, Donald Trump was in an interview, and he was asked about immigration, and he said that immigration is an issue of letting people into the country who have bad genes. Now, this is just 1 year, basically to the day, where he said something about immigrants poisoning the blood of our country. So what is your take, Tim, on what Trump said just the other day?
This is a dog whistle in the classic sense of the word, but it's not so veiled as a dog whistle. This is textbook white supremacy and American exceptionalism disguised, white supremacy in disguise. What he's saying is these brown people are coming in here, and we have to stop these brown people from coming in here, or our nation will turn brown. And there's one thing that those in the status quo do not want, and that is to become the thing they most despise, the thing they most malign and marginalize, which is a brown person or a minority. They want to maintain the status quo at all costs, and if they have to fall back on white supremacy and racism and hatred to do so, they don't mind doing that. And it's something that they've been. This is nothing new. This is nothing new. They've been doing this for decades, centuries. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. And for those who are, you haven't studied enough.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim, for kicking us off. I want to welcome to the program our dear brother John Bunchy Career. Bunchy, it's wonderful to have you with us. I want to acknowledge you, say hello, and give you a chance to say hello to everyone who will be tuning in and listening. How are you doing there, my friend? Can you hear us okay, Bunch?
I'm doing good. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I was having problems with my computer. You know how that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. You were breaking up a little bit at first.
Appreciate you.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Of course.
But times not only nationally but internationally, and the thing about it is it's old to the sun, and the things that are going on now have been going on, like my dear brother said, for a long time. And only difference is that now we like me that where in the past it was really, really suppressed. So, thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be here.
Okay, right on. In fact, thank you for that, Bunch. We're gonna jump into the next thing that we wanted to talk about. Something happened today that may be worth some conversation. So I wanna toss this back to you, Tim, and then after that, Bunchy, I'm interested to get your thoughts. So today, a new book by the famed journalist Bob Woodward was released, and in that book, there are a couple important things that have become topics in national political media. The first is that since Trump has left office, he's remained in contact with Vladimir Putin. They've spoken approximately 7 times since Trump has been out of office. So they've maintained the relationship. And then on top of that, while Trump was president at the height of the pandemic, he shipped over to Russia many COVID testing machines that were in short supply here in the U.S. that Americans here in our country could have benefited from using. He sent those off to Russia, and in a conversation with Putin even said to him, "Look, man, are you sure you should be giving me these machines? I mean, isn't this going to make you look bad in your own country? I know they already hate me, but won't they hate you also?" And Trump's response was basically like, "So what? It doesn't matter." So this is brand new content as of today. So Tim, I'm wondering, any reactions to this?
Absolutely. Donald Trump is cozying up to a dictator, a strong man, a real strong man, though, who eliminates people, has them killed, has them poisoned, has them disappeared. Donald Trump is a fake strong man. Donald Trump is he's a con man. He's a con artist. He's not a strong man. He just thinks he is. He's posturing like he's somebody that he absolutely is not. Will Putin take advantage of his ignorance and his weakness and his hubris? Yes. Will Putin make Donald Trump think that they are friends so that Putin can have his way? Yes. Is Donald Trump smart enough to know this? No, he's not.
Got it. Bunch, what do you think about these recent bits of information that have come out in this book? Now, of course, Trump himself, spokesman for him, said, "Oh, it's just hogwash. None of this actually happened. It's just Bob Woodward making things up." Do you have any reaction to these allegations from Bob Woodward, Bunch?
Well, see, the thing about it, that's typical Donald Trump. I mean, I was reading a thing today from Robert Wright, and he was saying, just like with Musk, it's not just the money. Because I'm going to tell you something. Most people that support Trump, they think either they got money or they think he's going to help them get money. But like Robert Wright was saying about Musk, it's not just about the money. It's the support of the oligarchy like they have in Russia. Because I'm going to tell you something. I want to go to Musk. Musk reminds me, he's a dangerous man. He reminds me of the villains in the James Bond movies. They all had a bunch of money. They had one movie, the guy had a big satellite and he threatened the world where if you didn't do this, he was going to blow up New York or blow up this. You had another guy had this island and he had rockets under there. That's Musk. The man got a space thing. He got $240 billion, which is more than a lot of small countries. He's very dangerous. And that's why, I had a customer, and I try to keep my politics away from my country. I do landscaping. And you mentioned the pandemic. And so she came out to bring me a check. And she said, well, because we normally hug. Because she's like, most of my customers, So she came out, she said, well, we got to stay 6 feet. She said, it's all Fauci's fault. I said, what are you talking about? She said, it's all Fauci stuff. I said, what are you talking about? I said, Donald Trump told us that everything was under control, that it was just a small thing, that it was no worse than the flu. Then he goes on TV and had the interview. I forget the reporter was a black reporter, and he said that the premier of China told him that it was 5 times worse than the flu, and it was airborne. Because I remember myself, because people didn't know was when you touch it, something. I mean, I had Lysol in my truck, Lysol everywhere, spraying. And so then she tells me, "Well, I don't believe that." I said, "He said it right on TV." She said, "Well, you know, the media, but these are the folks that we're dealing with. You know, this is like I remember an interview this reporter did with one of the this was back when Obama and the reporter asked her why she didn't like Obama, and she said because he was a Muslim. And so the Republicans say, "Ma'am, no, he's not a Muslim. He's a Christian. He go to church." And she said, "Well, I don't care if he is a Christian. He's still a Muslim." So the most dangerous thing is Trump has woken up. It's the people that support Trump that walk amongst us every day, smile in our face. That's the danger right there.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and we're gonna continue to explore that more. Thanks, Bunch, for bringing Elon into the conversation. That's definitely something that we need to pay attention to. So I want to get both of you. I want to get your thoughts on what's happening with the hurricanes. There's, as you know, there's a lot happening down south now. Hundreds of lives have been lost so far. Billions of dollars in damage. Homes have been destroyed. And there's yet another hurricane headed directly for the west coast of Florida, the Tampa area in particular. And there's already evacuation and everything happening there. So I'm curious to know, how do you think what's happening there will impact the election? What are your thoughts on this particular conversation?
Well, I think that they're definitely going to use natural disaster to spin the election one way or another in the response to the natural disaster. Notwithstanding that Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that Democrats can control the weather, but they're definitely going to use the response. Yeah, y'all saw that, right?
Yeah.
They're definitely going to use the hurricane response and lies about the response, and any misinformation that they can muster to try. I'm talking about the Republicans to try to spin the hurricane in their direction. All the death, all the destruction, lives lost, the grief and pain. They just want to take advantage of all of that to try to get elected so they can get all of that money and the office and power and the perks and all that. I don't believe anybody gets into politics for anything but the perks, because it's not the money. Why would a billionaire leave all his businesses behind to take a $400,000 a year job and then say, "I'll do it for $1"? You know what I mean? There's something suspect about that personality choice. But as far as the hurricanes are concerned, I would like to think that Ron DeSantis is responsible. I would like to say that the hurricanes are aiming at his house because he is a menace to the truth. He is a detractor from people who believe in responsible education and the teaching of history. And, I would like to think that hurricane is coming directly for him. Of course, I know it's not true, but, we can dream.
Yeah. What do you think, Bunch?
Well, the thing about it is these are the same people that deny global warming, that fight against Green New Deal. And not just this is coming now. This has been going on for a few years. We have had some of the biggest hurricanes in the history of, since they've been tracking this stuff. And the thing about it, what gets me, these are the same people to say, well, that China is ahead on. They've got more solar panels that they sell around the world that they got there. This car, what is it, BDD? They're scared of that, but it's because of the Republicans. Because you're trying to hold back. What did Trump do when he first got elected? he met with the coal companies, executives. That was one of his things when his campaign, that he's going to bring back coal. For what? The whole world is going away from that. But it's all about money, because this is capitalism. It's all about money. You know, I mean, just like when he had the meeting, I'm sure we all had, with all these oil executives, they said, hey, if you give me $1 billion, I'll eliminate restrictions. But see, because they want that. Just I'm gonna say, I mean, like we say, it's not too much difference between the two parties. But I want you can research it. Every financial disaster we have had has come under a Republican president, because they just opened the vault. They let the banks regulate themselves. They want to cut all regulation. Let the banks regulate. Come on, man. It's like the fox in the hen house. You know, every one of them. If you go back all the way, hell, when Obama got elected, and I'm not or Clinton, and I'm not a big fan of Clinton, but he inherited a huge deficit from Daddy Bush. And you know what he did? He balanced it was balanced when he left office. And then what do they do? Because just like with Trump's $1 trillion, $3 trillion, not trillion, $1 billion, but because it's all about them. It's all about the people with the money, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's nothing. Like I say, it's always been the same thing. I just want to say something too about the two parties. I remember one in the '60s, my stepfather, and he told me, and I'm telling you, he was a businessman. He was Republican, but that was business wise, but socially he cared about people. You know, he would, somebody behind a rent, well, if I put them out, where they gonna go? But him and my mother, I remember sitting there arguing about the Vietnam War. My mother would say it was immoral, it was unjust, and he said, well, it's good for the economy. Because every time a bomb is exploded, every time a plane, you got to replace it. And that's true. Even Eisenhower, who was a general, who became president, when he left office, he said, be wary of the military-industrial complex.
Yep.
And
he coined that term, in fact.
Right. He coined a term, and he was a general.
Right.
He was head of the whole European thing. So it's nothing. I mean, capitalism, and that's the thing that we have to get people to realize, because a lot of good people out there doing good things. You got people feeding the homeless, you got people, but you got to realize it's all because of one thing. If we wouldn't have crime, we would, one of the things I think people need to be fighting for is, and people talk about it, but I'm talking about fighting for, is a living wage. Because I know women, I know people working 2-3 jobs, got 4-5 kids. If they had a job where they could spend time with their kids, And then you got the white conservatives talking about, well, you got this lock key thing. They put people in the jail because they go to work and they leave a 13-year-old watch. Come on now.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I think we really need to be fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a thing the other day talking about, well, because we've been fighting, and the minimum wage, federal minimum wage is still $7.35 an hour.
$7.35, man. $7.35.
$7.35. Now you got some places they paying $15 an hour. Since we've been talking about this, it's really $20-something an hour to have a really living wage.
People have been fighting for a living wage since the living wage was $15, and since people have been fighting for a living wage, it's like you said, it's almost doubled in some places. So I appreciate that. I read something the other day too that was something to the effect of, all right, well, maybe the leftists won't be able to abolish capitalism, but global warming will do it. Global warming will abolish capitalism because it's either going to be we continue to perpetuate capitalism, or we all die because capitalism quite literally destroys the planet. So we'll talk more about that as we go. Tim, I want you to jump in on this one, and then Bunch, I want you to add on. So now let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the Middle East. So we're going back a couple weeks. right up until this very day. So after Israel killed Hezbollah leader Syed Hassan Nasrallah in a missile strike inside Lebanon, Iran then fired 180 rockets into Israel. And since then, Israel has launched more rockets and sent ground forces into Lebanon, up to and including the past couple days, where Israel is reporting that they not only assassinated Nasrallah's successor, but they assassinated the successor's successor as well. So there's even been more happening today. There have been rockets fired into Yemen, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 24 to 48 hours. So things in the Middle East there are escalating. So my question, Tim, to you and then to you, Bunch, is this a full-scale war that we simply want to try to pass off as something else for our own comfort? And how will this impact, of course, the world, but the election as well? What do you think, Tim?
Well, I have been on the ground, boots on the ground in the Middle East, fighting on behalf of the United States and ex post facto Israel in Desert Shield and Desert Storm, not really fully understanding what that situation was or what I was fighting for as far as U.S. foreign policy. I don't think it's a full-scale war yet. I don't think that the Israelis, I think by killing all these people, I don't think that they realize that they cannot kill an ideology. Their strategy, as articulated on CNN and Fox News, which I was overhearing, is to kill all these detractors, these insurgents, down to the last man and eliminate their power structure and all their membership, which is impossible. It's a generational conflict. These are generational hostilities, and they are acting as if the next generation of Hezbollah does not exist. Or, they're acting as if they are that powerful that they could actually kill an ideology. That they could actually kill a movement, collective movement, people's hearts and minds and emotions. Let's just kill them all. Kill every one of them. That is arrogant. It's dismissive. It's unrealistic. And it's overwhelmingly white supremacist. Which is illogical and erroneous anyway. So their logic is already bad. You had a meme posted earlier this week. Israel first attacked the Lebanon in 1978 during Operation, whatever that word is. Okay. Hezbollah was founded a few years later, right? And you go on, the meme goes on to explain these things, that Israel was really nothing more than a bad house guest. They were invited, they were welcomed in, and then they started tripping. And now that there have been movements formed to fight back, these people fighting for their land and their birthright, they are now labeled terrorists. You're here to take my house because of something a 2,000-year-old book said that your ancestors amalgamated and adulterated, to make it all about you. So you're here to take my house and my farm based on that. We're going to have to fight. Oh, I'm a terrorist now. Okay. The logic of white supremacy and the annexation of the territory that Israel embarked on, their belligerence, their aggression, their arrogance, they're not talking about any of that. They're not talking about any of that. Everything is somebody else's fault. Oh, they did this to us. They attacked us. Poor Israel. Victim status. As far as that, they haven't seen a war yet. I know that the Arab countries have tried throughout history to go in there and kind of take care of business with Israel. Israel's backed by the United States, which makes them almost literally untouchable. Even our missile defenses I'm talking about that we sent over there. But there's a lot of Arab countries surrounding Israel. A lot of brown people in that region, you know. And I don't think there's enough bullets or enough missiles or enough tanks to stop them all. Okay. That's one. Number two, I think the hesitance on behalf of the Arab community in that region is the fact that Israel is nuclear and they would likely destroy the entire region, so no one could have it before they would share power or relinquish what they have annexed through genocide.
All right. So, Bunch, what's your take, and then what impact what impact do you see on the election potentially? What do you want to add on to what with the election?
Well, one thing, it's not a war, because you got one side that's got tanks, jet planes, missiles, and it's backed by the United States. But let's think why they're backed. Really, that's the only true friend they have in the Middle East. Somebody made a comment that if it was no Israel, we would have to create Israel, because sure, they've got things with Saudi Arabia, who they a bunch of, they standing by silently, but they don't trust them. They don't trust. So you got Israel. And then if you go back, and I don't want to say rhetoric, but they call him, Israel was created by terrorists. The first prime minister, they led a group, they blew up a hotel that was owned by Britain, because Britain, that was their province or whatever you want to call it, and blew up this hotel. They blew up rail lines, and they got, I was watching this thing about Einstein, and he said if he would have known, because he was raising money for the refugees in Israel, and he said if he would have known he was raising money for them to buy tanks, to buy all this stuff, he would have never raised money. So, like I said, then you got to think of that people, just like you mentioned the Bible. They'll talk about, well, they wandered around for 40 years. They killed a lot of people. Read the Bible. They killed a lot of people in that 40 years. They took people's stuff until they got to what's so-called the Promised Land, because it had a river and it had the sea. That was, you know what I mean? But they killed a lot of people. And this war, it's just like a friend of mine is Jewish. I went to school as 8% Jewish. I sat there, and back in the 60s, and they had the 3-day war, the 6-day war, Egypt and all that, but it's the technology. But I have a friend who's Jewish, and she was like, she said, well, I don't know why everybody worrying about this. We only 1%. She was trying to make her case. She said, we only 1% of the religious population. But my thing is, okay, if you're only 1%, how do you have a nation state? How do you have so much control and power in the United States? Because let's go to the election, because just like I forget the brother's name in New York got defeated, another one because AIPAC or whatever, this Jewish already spent 14 millions against him. So they're very powerful, and so people, they tiptoe, just like what's happening with Biden. They play lip service. That's all they do is play, well, it's civilians. But then the thing about it is, I forget how to pronounce his name, but Premier of Israel, look at, like, when the first thing started, how can you tell us about not killing civilians when you drop 2 atom bombs on Japan? When you bombed the heck out of Hanoi, you went into Iraq, and this is changed. It's going to be over in 3 months, because we're going to shock and awe. You drop all kind of bombs there. So how can you tell us about civilian stuff? So it's very complex, and I don't think it's going to tip the election. And I know a lot of people pissed off, because I'm pissed off. A lot of people pissed off about it. But I don't think it's going to tip the election, but it's going to have, I believe.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to this issue, it's hard for me to say if the Democrats had taken a more progressive position, like cutting off or threatening to cut off weapons to Israel. I mean, we supply the majority of the weapons that they use. I know Germany supplies a lot too, but we're definitely the largest contributor to the IDF and to the. I mean, we're literally paying for the bombs and for the weapons that are being used to commit genocide, right? So I can see from a mainstream political perspective where Harris may not want to take a position like that. Morally, it's the right thing to do. I don't know what effect it will have, but I know that there are a lot of people on the left who are incredibly frustrated by the position of the Democrats. I mean, this is even one example of people who want an end to American support for Israel's genocide, who may in fact use their vote as a way to punish Democrats by voting for Trump. So this is just one example. And then I think it's real interesting that Netanyahu seems not willing to enter any sort of a ceasefire or any sort of peace process at all, because he is hell-bent on continuing this genocide and this war of expansion. So I actually think that it is a war and it's a genocide. And let's think about that for a second. When was the last time that we had a major war and a genocide at the same time? It was World War II. But in that case, who does that make us in this war, right? Like, we're on the side of the people who are committing the genocide and who are initiating the war. So does that make Israel, Germany, and us Italy or Japan? Like, we're definitely one of the fascist, belligerent powers if in fact we are going to consider this a war. And that's a shuddering thought for me. But with that said, I want to take a quick pause before we jump into the next topic. And Bunch, I want to just check in with you a little bit, my friend, and hear about how you've been doing, what you've been up to. For those listening who may not know, Bunchy Creer is a veteran member of the Black Panther Party. He's active in community organizing and activism there in Houston, where he lives. And we've known him for several years now because of the work that he's doing in the community and because of his legacy of activism going back for decades. So, Bunch, I'm just curious to know, like, how have you been doing? What's been going on there in Houston? And then tell us a little bit about this month. This is Black Panther Party Month or Black Panther Party History Month. So what sorts of activities are out there that folks might be interested to check in on or participate in?
Well, in Oakland, as usual, it's quite a few things going on. Here on the 26th, it'll be, because they've had at several places on the East Coast called Curve Fest to highlight political prisoners here in the United States. That's going to happen here on October 26th. And so it's always different things going on. And the main thing is just getting involved, because to me, just like the party, I mean, we can sit around and we can do this, but the main thing is to be active. You know, my good friend Kofi Tarka, who's national chairman of the Black United Front, you know, we get together all the time. But you know, one of the sayings they have that I like is that you could be in the front, you can be on the side, or you can be behind, but get involved. You know, and that's the main thing is getting involved. Another friend of mine here, which they're celebrating their 55th year, is Shape Community Center. Deloy Parker is one of the co-founders. I've been knowing him since 1971, and they've got two centers. And but it's just like we were talking some years back, and he said, you know, a bunch, you know, protests and all this stuff is all right, but if you don't have a program to go back to, then it's, you know, it's not worth anything. And because my whole thing is this, because I tell people, well, they say, well, we got our little family group, and I'm talking about so-called conscious people, but I'm talking about going down. It's like, I live in 3rd Ward, around the corner from Texas Southern University, but if you go down about 10 blocks, is what's called the bottom, where people still living in shotgun houses, very poor, and That's what we need to be, because I mean, look at it. Look at these kids. We got 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds killing each other, committing all these crimes. Why? Because of this society. They don't see no hope. It was like about 2 months ago, and that was their age, 13, 14, and 16, robbed a Wells Fargo bank. And they called them the Little Rascal Gang. And they got arrested because when their parents saw them, they turned them in. But this is going on a daily basis because these young folks, they don't have no hope. You know, a lot of people, conscious people, living well in a nice house, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Nice, but the people we need to reach is the ones that people are suffering. In other words, and we can gloss over. It's just like when I was as a kid, when I was because I first got involved with the party in Los Angeles. Whenever I would come visit in my here in Houston, my uncle was a doctor. Well, he'd take me to all the nice places. You know what I mean? He ain't not gonna take me to where people are suffering, and that's the thing. That's what we need to be organized. I mean, people like we're on social media, they've gotten too hung up on social media. That's why a lot of events I go to, you see the, because that's all you're doing. You're not touching people. You're not getting out, handing out flyers. And that's what we need. Grassroots organizing. That's what we need. I mean, social media is great because you can reach a lot of people at one time, but it's the same damn people. It's like preaching to the choir, as they say. So I mean, that's my whole thing, is that we've got to get out. Just like the Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not religious at all, but I have so much respect for them because they still go door to door. I remember when my son was in high school, I used to go to a store around the corner because they had a breakfast. They had a little thing, and there'd be these two older sisters sitting in the car every morning about 6:30, handing out the Watchtower. Well, in fact, one time I came in, I didn't see them for about a week. And when I saw them, I said, man, I was worried about y'all. But that's what I'm talking about. They get out there and they touch people, even though, and it's just like in the party, we say, hell, if we hand out 100 leaflets and 10 people show up, then that's doing something, So if you get out and see, I mean, we had an event over at Texas Southern University, and this young sister, she was a student. She said, well, what's going on? I said, well, Black Man Party. Oh, I didn't know about it, and she went. So that's my main thing. We got to touch people because they see you. I mean, that's the one thing about the party's programs is that we got criticized like about the ultra left. Well, this ain't nothing but a welfare program. No, but what it did, it brought us closer to the people. Because you got people out now, they'll have programs where we got a free food program. But we gave out education when it came to that. When we gave out 10,000 bags of groceries in Oakland with a chicken in every bag, well, you had to listen to Bobby Seale, Erica Huggins, Ron Dellums, and then we tested for sickle cell anemia. We registered for vote, because the thing about voting, like we said, people but it's a tool. It's not the end or just like the weapon. You got people running around with guns, but the gun in itself is not revolutionary. As Huey P. tool. It's just like if you're gonna hammer a nail in, you don't go with a screwdriver and beat on it with a screwdriver. You got to, and so it's just a tool to be used at the time it's necessary, not to be, all the time. And then you scare people. I remember one time we were at they'll say Shape, they had an African Racing Day. And these brothers come through there and they got on all black and they got these little billy clubs on. They said, you're intimidating people. You're supposed to be organized, but you're intimidating people, And that's one of the things that happened when Huey got out of prison. That's one thing he saw. We run around talking about off the pig, and either you're with us or you're against us, and it was scared of us, not just the police. And what the programs did, it brought us closer to them. I'll never forget here in Houston, one of the local newspapers, they came in the neighborhood where we had our office, and they interviewed all these senior citizens. And the senior citizens said that one of them said we were angels sent from heaven. Said that we fed the kids breakfast, that we came and checked on them every day. And that's the thing that brought you closer. Where one situation, when same neighborhood, we leave the office, I get pulled over with a couple other comrades, but these police, they get out with shotguns aimed at the car. Well, people came out the house, and the police said, y'all get back in the house. They said, no, we're not going nowhere. We're going to stand here until we see what. So they put us in the car, took us downtown. When we got downtown, the whole press was there, the TVs, radio, news, because people called, and they were shocked. And then they take us upstairs to what they call their central intelligence visit, and they apologize. Oh, they didn't know who y'all were. Oh, you stop everybody and get out with shotguns in the car. But all I'm saying, it was the people, because of the programs, that came out to protect us like we protect them.
Right on. Thank you for sharing with us, Bunchy, some of your work in the party and how that translates today. I'm hearing you say loud and clear that social media is nice, but you've got to maintain a connection with your community. You've got to be in the community. You've got to be serving the community. If I read you right, is that what I'm picking up from you?
Right. Because it's just like when I talk to different young people that's organizing, I mean, you got to cut the rhetoric. You got to come to them. It's just one thing. Just like people ask me, I remember I was telling somebody, I mean, we used to stand in front of stores selling the paper, downtown selling the paper, or collecting donations. And I had this one brother say, well, did y'all have your uniform on? That was in the beginning. We the people, just like I'm dressed now, you know what I mean? And so because we came from the community. Or I remember one time I was selling paper with another comrade, Claude Frost, and he was asked, he was asking his brother buy paper, and the brother said, nah, man, I don't want that. No. So I asked him, I said, man, you see that Houston Oilers game the other day? And his eyes lit up. Oh, man, that was a great game. Blah, 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 blah. Well, see, I got him. And at the end of our conversation, he said, man, give me one of them papers.
Yeah.
So many times we come with all the rhetoric. Just like I said, just like with the Jehovah's Witnesses. When I was little, people, the Jehovah's Witnesses would be in the neighborhood. People would call, hey, the Jehovah's Witnesses down the street. I remember my mother would say, okay, turn the TV off. Don't answer the door. You know what I mean? Because they know what they were going to come with. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to be, it's like people say, well, I don't watch the news, it's biased. How you going to know what's going on? I have people that's coming, I say, man, you hear about that shooting around the corner? Oh, when did that happen? You know what I mean? You got to be, of course just like Facebook, I have people, I don't get it, but you have to know what you're looking at, because there's a lot of bullshit on Facebook, but it keep you informed. My sister will call me all the time. Did you see what happened? I said, I saw it yesterday on Facebook, because she just saw it on the news. You know what I mean? So you have to be on top of stuff, and you have to go through. Well, that's bullshit. I ain't about that. And especially with this AI, back in the day in the party, we said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Not anymore. You know what I mean? Because they could change anything. You put you or me or whatever certain situation, we wasn't even there.
Right.
So anyway, that's all I'm saying. It's a whole new day, and that's another reason that you got to get with the people.
Yeah. Right on. I appreciate that, Bunch. Let's jump into another topic. Tim, I'm curious to get your read on this one first, and then Bunch jump right in after Tim. So it feels like ancient history now, but it actually wasn't. It was just last week, right? So the vice presidential debate happened. Tim Walz, J.D. Vance. So I'm curious to know, Tim, what you thought about the conversation, about the debate between the two candidates. Of course, Walz seemed to go out of his way to be friendly with Vance, and Vance scolded the moderator for fact-checking him, and then refused at the very end of the debate to acknowledge the outcome of the 2020 election. Those are just a few of the highlights. So curious to know, though, Tim, what did you think of the debate? What impressions did you come away with? Anything else related to the debate that you want to raise up?
I worried about Tim Walz because he seems soft and accommodating, and I didn't think that he had or he has the personality or demeanor to perform well against somebody who's going to lie and cheat and steal and, come out guns blazing with full-on lies. And, I thought that Tim Walz, I don't think he disappointed. I think he was soft and affable and, accommodating.
Quilted.
Yeah. So I thought that, I kind of predicted that would happen because, he is a high school football coach and a teacher, and he's not one of these cutthroat politicians that's going to come out here and lie and, and fabricate things and be inflammatory just to make his point. He's one of these more intelligent people who stands on the truth and what actually happened. If he doesn't have the cutthroat personality for the debate, then so be it. As far as J.D. Vance, he was also what I thought he would be, liar, pants on fire. But it doesn't matter about the lies that they tell or the people that they hurt or the wild conjecture and innuendo and straight BS, because anything that they do, they're doing in support of the status quo. And no matter what they do, no matter how reprehensible or base or beyond the pale, if it's in support of status quo initiatives like white supremacy and Christianity and capitalism, then they're automatically justified. You know, that's why his annoyance at being fact checked is like, bro, I'm a white man. I can say whatever I want. You're just supposed to believe it. You know, that's my position on this stage up here and in this world. I could say whatever I want, and people just have to believe it because I'm Caucasian and I'm rich and I've been elected. I have fundamental problems with each of the candidates, and their performance and everything. But I knew I had a feeling that J.D. Vance would come out on top, and I think he kind of did. I think he kind of did, and I think it's because Democrats, by and large, are more quiet, more intellectual, more reserved. They appear to be more logical and more educated in certain ways, and they're not talking loud and making a bunch of noise and screaming for revolution and civil war. Like, hold on a minute, let's talk about this, And I think that might be one of the problems with the Democratic Party and the campaign and Tim Walz's performance. Not cutthroat enough. They're not like, I'm gonna drag you through the mud and let you know what it is. They're very intellectual and very, very soft-spoken, and they're not carrying a really big stick.
Yeah, there was a CBS poll that showed J.D. Vance with an overall slight advantage, a couple points advantage. Who did you think won the debate? Vance coming out slightly ahead, but then on the issues, it was actually quite balanced. Abortion and healthcare seemed to favor Walz. Conflict in the Middle East, 50-50. Big surprise there, being sarcastic because neither party really wants to do the right thing in the Middle East. And then the economy and immigration seem to favor more Vance. I noticed Vance seemed to take some slightly moderate positions. It was almost like he was positioning himself not for 2024, but for 2028, trying to give off like Reagan vibes to some extent. That worried me a little bit. What did you think, Bunch? What was your take on the vice president conversation debate?
Well, I think you're right about that. You know, he's thinking about the future like a lot of politicians, and I agree with my brother. You know, it's for one thing, it's always going to be the status quo because you got to remember, if you get elected, you got to take that oath of office. And what does the oath of office say? You swear to protect it. So so right now maybe one day that'll change, but it's the same old same old. I think that for one thing, Vance, you know, he's Yale educated. He already said he was a good debater. And Walls, I think he stumbled out the gate. And I don't think maybe he was nervous, but he's more of a just to me guy, regular guy. You know, and I mean, it's just like I was reading this thing, and I already knew that, but the difference between debate and let's say dialect from dialect materialism, you know, a debate is you're gonna have you seeing who's gonna be the winner or loser, where and dialect is about coming to the correct analysis of the situation. It's not about who wins or who loses, and so that's one of the flaws in a debate. You know, okay, well, he won, I won. I mean, it's like you have debate in your family. I remember my mother like that. Oh, see, I told you. Okay, all right, well, you were right. You know what I mean? It's not that big a deal, but that's what a debate is. But it's all the status quo. I mean, it's just like whoever won. Yeah. It's just like when Obama got elected. Contrived. Yeah, when Obama got elected, that night I had tears in my eyes. Not because I thought he was the savior of us, but because I grew up in segregation. I grew up in a world where it was all white, except for your community, and your parents kept you insular. But everything on TV was white. Everything, it was white. Even all people might not know, but even like the blacks that had a hit album, they wouldn't put their picture on the album, because they didn't want to know it was a black person. That's what I grew up in. Right. You know, when I never forget one Christmas, my aunt and her sister went out, and so they found these dolls, and they found a black doll. They only had one black doll, and so they bought a black doll and a white doll. So they gave the white doll to my cousin. They gave the black doll to my sister, and she started. So this is the era I grew up in. You know, you were, can you imagine a kid to cry because you're getting a black doll? So that's the only reason I had tears in my eyes, because he was a black man. You know, when I went to school, I mean, all the teachers were black, so they try to pull you up and they lie to you. Well, one day you can grow up to be president. That wasn't true back then. You know what I'm saying? But that's the only reason, because I know he's going to have to take that oath of office, and he wasn't going to give Black America or go to defeat capitalism. He was the president of the United States.
Yeah, to that point too, Bunchy, the debate only included the two vice presidential candidates from the major parties. It left out Karina Garcia and other vice presidential candidates. So to your point around a correct analysis, it was contrived in such a way that a correct analysis couldn't actually be reached in the first place. Like it wasn't the intention, number one. It was to showcase personalities and bide for political points, number one. But then number two, correct analysis was never the intent, because a correct analysis requires more voices and a variety of perspective. And so Karina Garcia, she presented some of her own perspective that I wanted to. I'm not going to read every word, but I'll sum it up, and then I'll get your reaction to. So the first thing that she points out in the statement that she put on the website and on Instagram was first that if she and Claudia de la Cruz were to assume the role of president and vice president, the first thing that they would do would be to nationalize the first or 100 largest corporations in America and turn them into public property. And then she goes on to add a little bit more. She would talk a little bit more about the importance of utilizing green energy and trying to eliminate harmful waste and emissions and pollution that are fueled by corporations. And she would also urge people like Tim Walz and the Democrats to be more active in protecting abortion rights. Of course, more advocacy and protection for immigrants. Challenges J.D. Vance on his racist lies, and then also highlighting, of course, the deep contradiction of the current administration, the Biden administration, in its handling of the situation in the Middle East. And they, Garcia and De La Cruz, that is, propose massive cuts to the Department of Defense budget. So does Jill Stein and Butch Ware, as do also Cornel West at the same time. So the common theme between all three of the smaller third-party candidates, all of whom are leftist candidates, they all seem to agree on the approach in the Middle East, and of course the deconstruction of the military-industrial complex, as you said before, Bunchy, as you mentioned before. So I'm curious, any reactions, any thoughts to that, Bunchy? I'll give you the first word, and then Tim, you can close out on this topic. Any reaction here, Bunch?
Well, for one thing, the important thing about having is that they can get the word out and push the word. And it's been the same way in history. You know, there's no way they're going to come close to winning, but they can get the other point of view out there and get. I mean, it's just like I'm having a senior moment. I'm thinking about Bernie Sanders. I remember when he first the race, and he said he was a Democratic socialist. I said, hell, no votes. He got socialist in his name, you know.
Right.
And he
right.
I say, ain't no way he got votes. And then he got all those votes. But it's like me and the cameras, we would get over in my house all the time. So we sitting here, and I said to one of my cousins, yeah, but he's not no revolutionary socialist. I said, I ain't talk about that. Just socialist in his name. Or like I went to the polling place with my brothers in Las Vegas, and these two older ones were sitting there with in their wheelchairs, and they were talking. They said about who they gonna vote. So, well, you know, now we candidates, you know, he's a communist, he's a socialist, you know, because they don't even know what socialism is. A communist is drowned out. But the important thing is that it's an alternative where people can get the word out about the genocide in Palestine and a living wage and the other issues. So that's the important thing, is have an alternative, and it's always has. There wasn't no way with just that one, you know what I mean? But he can get his message, and that's the alternative, and eventually it'll build. Because I want to just say this one thing about this so-called democracy. You know, people they'll keep saying, well, how come we can't go back to, you know, partisanship where people we can't go back. Because see, the times you're talking about, it was mainly old white men in the Senate, in the Congress. They go into their lounge, smoking their stogies. Well, look here, Bill, you help me out on this bill, and next time I'll pat him on. It ain't like that no more. You had when you might have had one black senator from New York, but now you got blacks, women, indigenous people, Palestinian person, Democratic socialists. You got the so-called Gang of Four. So it's a whole different thing. It's not going to go back to where it was before, and that's the thing. I mean, just like when Clinton got elected, you know, and the saying was, it was a bunch of angry white men, and it's a bunch of and women, because they see stuff changing. They see it coming. That's why they fight so hard to try to pass these laws and stuff, because they see it. I mean, it's changing.
Mhm.
I mean, you look at this. It's been a safe for a long time, and it's damn near purple. Or look what happened in Georgia. You know, you had a black man get elected,
Right.
you had a Jewish man get elected. It's a changing. That's the whole thing. Like, it's one thing with Trump's whole thing, make America great again. Well, black people, but that's a dog whistle to go back to where it was before. You know, put these niggas
Mhm.
in their place, put
Mhm.
these brown people in their place, and because that's the way it was. They, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't just like I said with segregation. And then the whole thing about states' rights. It's the same thing. This is the same people that
Mhm.
fought against integration, same people that fought against gay rights, same people that's fighting against,
Mhm.
and they talk about states' rights. But see, the thing about it, to me, with Republicans is the contradiction is this. Here in Texas, you got Greg Abbott, who's a fascist, and his lieutenant governor. They'll say they got states' rights, but then they want to come in the cities and tell the cities what they can and cannot do. That's a contradiction. These elected officials
Yeah.
also
Absolutely.
the city, and then you're gonna tell them, well, you can't require masks, or you can't lower taxes or raise taxes. That's a contradiction. You say you don't. I mean, had to come in on many issues because of these so-called states'
Yeah.
rights.
Yeah. And it's like also too how the state board of education took over all the schools in Houston. But yeah, you talking about states' rights. But then you come to Houston
Right.
and you galvanize
Right.
the schools, and really all you're trying to do is gut certain neighborhoods and gentrify them to kick out, like you said, black people and poor people.
Yeah. These were elected officials that were elected
Right,
by the people of
right,
Houston. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. Yeah,
And so, yeah.
yeah, yeah. No doubt, no doubt. Hey, so Tim, listen, I want to bring you back into the conversation. We were talking about third party candidates a little bit. So I want to get you engaged in this conversation by asking you another question about third party candidates. So recently, the Supreme Court declined the Green Party petition to put Dr. Jill Stein, and Professor Butch Ware on the ballot in Nevada. Now, the reason that this was even a conversation at all was because the Democratic Party had sued to keep them off the ballot for allegedly failing to submit the proper form to get on the ballot. Now, the backstory there is that while it is true that the Green Party did submit the wrong form to get on the ballot in Nevada, they submitted the wrong form because they were given the wrong form. But yet and still, the Supreme Court declined to take any position on this at all, which means that the denial will stand and the Green Party will not appear on the ballot there. So I guess in general, what do you think about the way the Democratic Party is treating the Green Party and others? Because it isn't just this particular case, but what's your take on third parties in general? And then on this particular case, Democrats fighting to keep these third parties off of the ballot?
As for your first two candidates that you spoke about, they have vowed to take billions of dollars away from elderly white men and women. And I don't know any one of them that's going to stand for that. So, as you were speaking, reading, kind of recounting their positions and what they're going to do with all these billions and billions of dollars that belong to all these elderly white men, I'm thinking assassination, murder, or at least an attempt, because $1 billion is an awful lot. And there's not a whole lot that you can't get with $1 billion. And if you can get John F. Kennedy dead, then you can definitely get the two of them dead, both of them at the same time if necessary, because nothing stands in the way of money and white supremacy and the status quo in this country. So they can run on that platform if they want to, and they can get their message out. They better hope they don't win if they want to live. As for the third party candidates and the third party positions and the Democratic Party suing them to keep them off the ballot, I'm conflicted because, you know, we have traditionally a two-party system, and Democrats, these third-party candidates typically take votes from Democrats, you know, the leftist candidates, and the Democrats want to win just like everybody else. So I can see them pulling out all the stops to make sure that they win, just like the Republicans are doing, because it's the left wing and the right wing, but they're both on the same bird, you know. So there's no real difference between their ambitions and the things that they'll do to get elected.
Tim, let me get your take on this, and then Bunch, I want you to, and then Tim, hand off to Bunch. But Tim, let me get your take on this. Do you think that Democrats trying to keep left parties off of the ballot is the same as what Republicans are trying to do in purple states by suppressing the vote with the voter ID laws? And now Trump and them are talking about, oh, well, these voting machines, and they're trying to give more power to the county board officials, which is an unprecedented take. Do you see any similarity between Democratic treatment of third-party candidates and what Republicans are trying to do in swing states, or is that just a false?
I think it'd be hard to make an argument that there's a difference. The third-party candidates are smaller, less funded. They have less of a ground game. They don't have the media attention. They don't have the track record in the history. So the Democrats are kicking the crap out of little man, just like the Republicans are, to make sure that they get on the ballot. The only difference is they're trying to do it under the guise of intellectualism, you know, and necessity. But all it is you are taking votes from us, and we're going to do whatever we can to stop you from doing that. And I don't think there's much difference between the Republicans and Democrats in that respect. And I don't think that, the third party candidates get the kind of attention that they deserve, because we are traditionally a two-party system and people can't unlearn that type of stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bunch.
What do you think, Bunchy?
Well, I mean, I think you hit it, you know, it's less funded and less out there. Because if you I stayed in third ward back. If you went and knocked on the door and asked who Jill Stein was, they'll say, Jill who? And they'll ask, Cornell who? Because that's another thing I'm saying about social media, or so-called conscious people or intellectual people. Well, they know who Cornell West is more than they would know who Jill Stein is. And so, I mean, that's the thing about it. You don't have the money. You're running a grassroots campaign, which I say we need to do, but you're talking about nationally, you know, and that's hard to do. I mean, that's one thing about our democracy. It's all about money, you know. So I'll say our so-called democracy, because it's not a true democracy. And I remember I was talking to one of my customers who's a lawyer. I told him we need to get rid of the electoral college. He's like, no, we don't. And I said that, and I'll tell you, his daughter is a congresswoman, and she's a Democrat, and he's a Republican. He said his daughter was the first Democrat he ever voted for. But then we were having this conversation, and I said we need to get rid of the electoral college, and he said, "No." I said, "Well, we're supposed to be a true." He said, "No, we're not a democracy. We're a republic," you know, and so we still got this archaic thing that was put in place for one thing because of slavery. And because if people knew the true history of our so-called democracy, for the first 50 years of this so-called democracy, you could not vote unless you own property. And just like these so-called revolutionaries, just like most wars, they're spurred by the rich. I mean, the Boston Tea Party, that was a bunch of rich people that was pissed off about paying these taxes. That wasn't the average citizen, you know. And like all wars, the poor fight them, and they're pushed by the rich, you know. And so, like I say, the electoral college. One thing with slavery, I remember Mitch McConnell, with his ignorant ass, he said that we don't need reparations because we've already gave blacks reparations. One, we fought the Civil War to end slavery, and we elected a black president. And I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, Mitch. One thing, your ancestors probably named Colonel Beauregard from the Confederate Army, so you wasn't fighting in slavery, your people, and you did not vote for Obama. In fact, he's the one that said that the number one job of the Republican Party was to make sure that Obama was a one-term president. That's your job? I thought it was to serve the American people. So, I mean, like I said, it's crazy.
Yeah. Bunch, I want to get your take on this. This is one more question I'd like for us to talk a little bit about. This will be the last question of the evening before we sign off. But the question is exactly, it's about third-party candidates. One of the things that we've done for the past few conversations that we've had together is we've checked in to think about the best voting approach. Clearly, the question is either Harris or some other third-party candidate. And so I want to take a temperature check for anyone who's comfortable talking about where they think they'll land come the vote on November 5th. So the question is, we've debated the best voting approach, Harris or a third-party candidate. With less than 30 days left until the election, where are you in the vote? Where are you thinking that you will land? And this is for anybody. I'll say a little bit about my own voting position at this point. I live in Illinois. The state of Illinois has been a blue state for as long as I've been alive, and there is really no risk that the state will go to anyone except the Democrats and Kamala Harris, which gives me a more privileged position of potentially voting for someone like Cornel West or Jill Stein. But I have relatives who live in Michigan and Wisconsin, and they are more leaning towards Harris, even though they disagree with many of her policies, in particular her take on what's happening in Israel and in Gaza. So I'm just curious to know, where are you both, even if you don't want to necessarily say who you're voting for, like what sorts of thoughts are you having about this election? I've even heard some people say, "Oh, well, I'm not voting at all because the system doesn't serve me."
I'll say this. Go ahead. But I'll go back
you got
to
a bunch,
2016. Yeah, I'll go back to 2016 when Trump was running against Clinton. And I knew who Trump was, and I really didn't want him to win, but in a way I wanted him to win because I knew he would put everything out there like he did. You know, he would make the people take the hoods off they thing, and he would show what the other side of this country is really about. You know, racist, because he is a racist. Because, like I said, the same customer I was talking to, I called him a racist. Oh, no, he's not a racist. I said, whenever they ask him, are you a racist? He said, I'm the least racist person. So what you're saying is you're a racist,
he did
but
say
you're
that.
not as bad. Yeah. Right. He said it several times. He said, I'm the least racist person in this room. So what you're saying is you're a racist, but you're not as bad as these other people. So in a way, I wanted him to win. really as a revolutionary, because I knew he was going to highlight all the shit that's wrong with this country. Just like giving the $1 trillion to the rich and the whole thing. Now, as far as this election, I mean, it's tough because, like I say, we're we're at some critical, especially here in Texas. Like I said, it's been a red state. There's never been a Democrat elected to a statewide office in maybe over 20 years. And so, of course, I'll vote for Colin Alred and people like that. But when it comes to the presidential race, I'm still up in the air because I don't want to see Trump because he's going to do what he said he was going to do, and that's he's going to go after everybody that has stood in his way. He's going to do it. He already showed us. It's just like with the Republicans. Because they're coming after Trump for all the crimes he did commit, they said they politicized in the Justice Department. What did he do? Barr was like his personal attorney.
Right.
Barr went over there to Giuliani. Barr went over to Ukraine, try to put pressure on them to get dirt on Biden. And then he refused to. Like everybody that don't listen to him, he refused to go along with his election denial stuff. What did he do? He fired him. And then he tried to put a guy in that had no criminal experience, none of that. But he had said, well, he would make sure everything, you know what I mean? So we know what he is. He showed us, so. Like I said, the first time around, I was hoping he won because I knew what he was going to do. He was going to show everybody how the system really is. It's just like I'm going to tell you a little short story about my brother-in-law. He what he have here is called a green, comes from the county where you can get your medical stuff, right? So he was pulling for Trump to win because he's talking about, well, he's going to get rid of all these Mexicans and these immigrants and stuff. So Trump won, and his green card got canceled. Then all of a sudden he was pissed off, But that's what they want to do. I mean, it's just like with Social Security, yes. Then he was pissed. I told you he couldn't get his medicine no more. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like with Social Security. I mean, what is not entitlement? But they have borrowed so much money from Social Security that they've never put back. They won't tell you that. But then they say it's going to be insolvent. So it's. I'm gonna get right off point for 1 minute. When politicians, because that's what they are, politicians, when they say, okay, no new taxes, but what they do, they go up on your fees for your driver's license, your fishing license, it's all the same thing. They're going to get the money from somewhere, and so it's politicians. But I don't want to see Trump get back in because we've seen people that work with him. Because, one thing the Republicans, his supporters talking about, well, this is unprecedented. That no president, he's an unprecedented president. So many things happened. The history he made, he went through so many cabinet members. That was historic, and then all of them talk about him, And so no, I don't want to see him back in there. So I'll have to wait and see.
But what is your are you deciding between Kamala and a third party, or are you considering not voting at all? Like what is your main contention?
I'll vote. I'll vote. Just like I can send you a picture. I met Cornell when he was there. In fact, I had breakfast with him, and then they had a program at the Shrine of the Black Madonna. They had a program there that I participated with him, and so yeah. But I'm a vote, but it's gonna be, as far as who I'm gonna vote for, it's gonna be a last minute thing. I have to see how the waters are going when we get to that point. I'm not gonna send no early voting stuff in. I want to see all the way to the end. Just
Exactly.
like
Exactly.
they say, to the fat lady sing or whatever. I,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
because it's just like when Trump won. Like I said, in a way, I wanted him to win. But I remember I went to sleep that night. They was talking about Florida. I woke up the next morning. I thought I was still asleep. I was dreaming. But he was because it shocked him. He didn't think he was going to win.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. That's true. So Tim, what about you? Where are you on this all important decision right now? What are you been thinking about, my friend?
I have been following the race and following the headlines and watching what's happening. I know that Kamala spent 20 plus years stuffing Negroes into the prison system on behalf of Doug Emhoff and his cohorts, and that rubs me the wrong way that she told the line for the status quo for so incredibly long. But she turned around and did some recidivism programs and things like that. But, I can't absolve the oppressor in this situation. I can't absolve the oppressor in any situation. Uh, as far as a third party candidate, I know the most about Cornel West, and I've always liked his philosophy and the way he speaks and his position on the issues. He just has an appearance credibility problem. You know what I mean? It's just the way he appears will probably rub a lot of Americans the wrong way. And that's a real thing in this country, your appearance, how people judge the way you look. But I do like Cornel West. I would, I think that Trump there's a good chance that Trump could be reelected, and he would win on white supremacy alone. No ifs, no ands, no buts. He's not qualified. He's not educated. He's not prepared. He is a disaster and a disgrace, an inarticulate, mentally degenerating mess, a dumpster fire, Trumpster fire, if you will. But that doesn't matter because, like I said earlier, to justify the perpetuation of the current level of the status quo, they will elect this man, the mess, disgrace, felon rapist that he is, because he's white, he's rich, he's racist, and he's a male. He doesn't need any other qualifications. He doesn't need any other education. He doesn't need a better ground game. He doesn't need and even a popular vote victory. He can get the Electoral College, which, if I'm not mistaken, is only one for Republicans. I won't stake my name on that, but I believe there's a good chance that he could probably be reelected. I don't think the two candidates could be any more different. I don't think Kamala Harris could be any more qualified or prepared or better educated to do the job. But I don't think America, shame on America, is ready for that situation. Now, I said the same thing about Obama in her defense, and in America's defense. I said the same thing about Obama. I said, ain't no way he's going to get elected. I voted for him twice. He got elected twice, but I'm looking at the climate in this country right now and the way people are reacting to his rhetoric, his dog whistles, his jingoism, and the amount of support that he has in the black community from these house Negroes and these black bourgeois. We talked about that. You touched about that briefly, Bunch, about how your uncle was a doctor and he was not in the community. He showed you this nice community where everybody was doing well, and the community where we need to be, everybody is focused on getting out and staying away and letting those people starve and moving to the suburbs and things like that. So no, I don't. I think Trump may in fact be reelected because he has so much support amongst the black bourgeois and Hispanics and Latinos and Asians and most of all white folks. I mean, he's their candidate. He's the poster boy for white supremacy, and that's his only qualification. And I fear that's all he needs. You know, we went over this a couple of weeks ago. I gave the lyrics. She can look at the menu, but she can't eat. She can feel the cushions, but she can't have a seat. She can dip her foot in the pool, but she can't have a swim. She's the fastest runner, but she's not allowed to win. And I stand by that. I don't think America's ready. I hope I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm watching Trump and I'm listening to his supporters. I'm listening to Republicans. They're very loud. They're very boisterous. They're very angry. And angry is much more useful than despair. And I think, he is making these people mad enough to get out and vote on election day. And, so I think white supremacy makes a resurgence this election year.
Hey, man. Hey, come on.
America.
Come on, man. Hey.
I'm trying real hard to be optimistic.
Stop.
I'm trying.
Stop it, man. Stop.
I want to believe in the people. I get a slap for that. I get a slap.
No, we're not going to do that this episode, man. This is first time on. We're not going to do any of that, man.
I'm trying to believe. I'm trying to believe in the American people. I'm trying to believe in America, man. But damn, bro, it's bad out there. It's bad. Bad.
So, Bunch, we're getting ready to get out of here, man. But I want to leave you the chance to get the last word before we close out. Any parting thoughts? Any last reactions before we finish up, Bunchy?
One of the things I was thinking back, I'm listening to my brother. He's got a good analysis of a lot of things, but I'm gonna go back to the same customer that first he took Fauci's fault, and I want to call him racist. But I left it with this, and because this is why a lot of people, I mentioned earlier, vote for Trump is because of. Because I told her, like I said, a good person. In fact, we hugged every time. I said the person, but you know what you did, Trump, because of your purse and your pocketbook, not because of your morals. And that's what a lot of people are doing, especially people with money. Because what did he do? He gave them money. He regulation. Get rid of regulations. So they like that. Like I say, you put the, because I mean, not just bank regulation or regulation, any regulation. They don't like that. And we, this is capitalism is about greed. I mean, but they got a show called Greed. And they talk about, and it's about competition. I was listening to this guy, and I forget his name, but he was an old philosopher, and he broke down what capitalism is about competition. Because people, a merchant will burn down another merchant store. Really, that's happened. People will kill their competitor, because that's what's coming out, And
that's what I was saying about. That's what I was saying about those politicians, the ones who want to take these billions of dollars from people and turn them into public property. They don't allow that. They don't allow that. They don't allow that.
This thing about a lot of politicians also. So you got some politicians come out. I tell you, just like here in Houston, we had a thing. Was about and they told them that it was citizens buried there. They were slave labor that the Texas prison in Sugar Land. They found 9 bodies. The youngest was. And we went out there, and I saw that once they opened up, you could tell they were abused. One had a whole. I'm going to talk about politicians. So just a Congress person. I write a letter, but when y'all get and stuff, leave my name out of there, because they'll only go so far. just like with a lot of bourgeois people, period, they'll wear the I Can't Breathe t-shirts, you know, t-shirts, and much further than that. I mean, they'll do that. I mean, because now, and one thing, and poor NWP, because I tell people that if you find an NAACP like here in Houston, you go to the Hotel Americas in Houston to their banquet. You know, they give out awards and scholarships. They give out turkeys for Thanksgiving and stuff for Christmas. And they don't. Only time they'll come out is something that's happened, and that's probably most of in our community. They become reactive, not proactive. Just like you talked about the school board thing, that stuff been going on. They mentioned that since 2017.
Yeah.
Then once it happened, now they want to come out, hold press conferences and marches and all. It's done. Where were you at when they first said they were going to do it? You know, my friend Kofi Talker, who's the head of the National Black United Front, and he was sitting on my couch, and he said, "Bunchy, what you think gonna happen?" I said, "I tell you." And they throw years old doing the watch, throw money at it, and we fighting over it. And what do? Coke, Pepsi. Well, we're gonna give P, Black Lives Matter, the Urban League. They don't come in the community to shape community center.
Hey, Bunch, we're losing. Your connection is going bad, Bunch. Unfortunately. Yeah, Bunch, your connection is going bad. You're going. It's going bad, but yeah, you're going. It's choppy though, Bunchy. Unfortunately, so we're going to we'll just finish up here, but we hope you can come back for another conversation later this month if you're around.
Yeah.
All right, Tim. We gotta get out of here, man.
We've gone being with y'all, and all power to the people.
All power to the people. All power to the people. Tim, stay strong, my good brother. We'll be in contact, and we look forward to seeing everybody. I think it is on October 29th for our next conversation. All power to the people, and real power is people.
Thank you, brother.